everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. I am here today to review Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe. So, for starters, just a little history of what I thought about all the other Beavis and Butthead stuff. I really like the original show. It really is a show for teenagers. But it's a really good show regardless. But, when I was a teenager and I remember the first thing I ever watched was the clip of the gym teacher talking about sex with Beavis and Butthead. And it was just like the scene of that. And I was like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen. And then I watched all these other clips, and then I watched the episodes in total, and then after that I watched the movie, and I like all of it. I don't really have a strong feeling towards one or the other. I would say that it's unfortunate that the show didn't get to go on longer, because it had the potential to go places that King of the Hill can't go. And I think it deserved better. These movies, both of them have proved that if you write in a smart way, you can have them be really good characters and you can have really good stories without sacrificing too much of the comedy. And I would say that it would be cool if, they just kept on doing movies or they brought back the show in some way. Because the revival, I think, is probably the worst thing that they ever did. I don't think it's bad at all, but they did this revival in 2012 or something. It was right around the time I discovered the show. So I was thankful that, they revived it as soon as I started watching the show. But the revival, it's just nowhere near as good as any of the other Beavis and Butthead things. I really like the movie, though. I've seen the movie quite a few times. There's a lot of great stuff in it, a lot of classic moments. The Rob Zombie music video sequence and all the times where they go to all the different landmarks and the old lady that they ride with on the plane and the bus and all their interactions with her. There's a lot of great stuff in that movie. I think that the movie is slightly underrated because whenever people talk about the movie, they just say, it's not as good as the show for the most part. And I think it is. I think that it's as good as the show, if not better. And one of the frustrating things, of course, is that these are two characters and they'll never score. They'll never have sex with anyone or anything. They're just completely losers for their whole lives, unfortunately. And that is their big conflict. And I think that as soon as they score, that their conflict and their story is over. And this film tries to end that conflict once again. And of course, in the movie, they were trying to score with this horrible femme fatale, evil, psychopathic criminal and her psychopathic boyfriends following them along. That was a disaster. But she was pretty hot though. She had that platinum hair and she was a very classic femme fatale. This character that they try to score with on Beavis and Butthead Do the Universe, she's the exact opposite almost of that character. She's very, very cool. I liked her quite a bit. I thought that she was a great new character in the Beavis and Butthead universe. She was very smart. She was very, I'm not going to say strong because that sounds really gay. To say, she's a strong woman. Like, no, she's just a really cool and competent character, and I felt like she's actually a good love interest. Like, she's not a total love interest for both of them, but for Beavis, she pretty much is. Spoiler alert. And, I'm going to just spoil the whole damn thing because this is basically like a TV thing. And why would you watch this review if you haven't seen the movie? Well, I'll just say this. If you haven't seen the movie, it's a pretty good movie. I wouldn't say it's the greatest thing they've ever done. There are a couple of issues they get more glaring and glaring as the movie goes on, and the movie's ending kind of shits the bed a little bit in terms of they almost had like a really good ending, like a good ending in terms of a good story ending, like not like good or bad or anything, but just a good ending. And I was really liking the ending, and then all of a sudden something happens, and I thought, oh, did they really have to do that? So anyways, I think the movie, I would give the movie like an A minus. I think that it's so much better than everything else that's come out this year for the most part. Like, there's been a couple of good movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, of course, fantastic, masterful horror film. Top Gun Maverick, classic, one of the greatest films I've ever seen. I could watch it again right now. That's how much I like that movie. And of course, there are a few others too. But I really like this movie, and I think, make more movies like this, make less movies like Lightyear. I think that's the message. Because I tried to watch Lightyear to review it, and I just couldn't. It's just so terrible, and I'm not going to torture myself and watch this trash. So, that's the message. Make more Beavis and Butthead, make less Lightyear. So now for spoilers, I'm just going to go full on spoilers. I really loved the setup. It was very, very funny, the whole docking thing. Beavis and Butthead just docking and docking and docking, and that was hilarious. And then they go up in space, and there's going to be 2 sacrifices, and we know it's going to be Beavis and Butthead, and there was a lot of that. I loved the setup, like the first 20 to 30 minutes, and then they go to 2022, which I'll say too, I really liked the whole time travel, multi-dimensional mechanics in this movie. I thought that they were very constrained, in a good way, because in a lot of movies, the thing is that I don't like that. I don't like traveling dimensions. I don't like time traveling because you know what it does? It opens up a can of worms. And with the Spider-Man series in particular, Young Iron Boy, they opened up this big can of worms so that they can make easy money off of the losers who are looking for their little nostalgia trip with their Toby and Andrew, seeing them on screen again. That was literally the whole point of that movie, was just to make money off of people who are easy to bait with the little keys jangling, as other YouTubers would say. And this didn't feel like that. They really held back in a smart way. They only showed like 1 or 2 variations of Beavis and Butthead, and they kept it very, like, they're almost like cameos. They're almost like just very, very not in the movie, like main characters. And I really, really like that. I hate when they open these types of cans of worms. Because once you do that, you never go back. Like, okay, if they can't achieve blank in this universe, then they can get help from the muscular Beavis and Butthead, or they can get help from the wealthy Beavis and Butthead. They can get help from the Beavis and Butthead who were raised by a real family with a mother and a father together. So they were so smart to not completely have that can of worms open. They just pulled out a couple of worms and they closed the lid. And I really liked that. That was why I thought the movie worked, was because the movie still starred the classic Beavis and Butthead. There was a lot of funny jokes. I really think that there were some, for sure, like really funny laugh out loud moments that I wasn't expecting. Probably one of my favorite moments was when they were in prison, and then that one guy gives Beavis all those drugs, and of course, as soon as Beavis is going to get those pills, he's going to turn into Cornholio. And I love that. I thought that was really cool and very funny. And there were the Siri thing with Beavis talking to Siri. And I'll say that too. One of the things about this movie that's kind of a flaw is that a lot of the times in these duo movies where you have like two guys and they're buddies, a lot of the times these movies, they'll try to have this kind of forced storyline where one of them gets in a fight with the other one of them is upset that the other one is a certain way, and they have like a conflict together, and they kind of tried to do that in this movie, and it didn't really work for me at all. I thought that, I just, it didn't really feel natural and organic. It kind of felt like they just wanted to have some extra drama with them. But still, they weren't mad at each other for long, thank God, because that can also be a huge issue in those types of stories. They work so well together, and there's a lot of times in the movie, like, there was a really funny sequence with them going into this college class with these gross mentally ill people in their little gender studies bubble classroom, and they kind of crash their class, and a lot of funny stuff. But the movie gets a little too bogged down in plot in the second half, I think. That is another thing that happens a lot with these comedies, where you have characters who they're trying to adapt them into this full-on movie instead of an episode. They'll have them get into this very convoluted plot, convoluted adventure, and it worked in the older movie, because in the older movie everything came together. There wasn't one end that felt loose. In this film, it was just kind of all over the place in the second half, because they kind of started to move away from telling jokes and just go full on plot and just not really care if it's funny or not. And so there were a lot of moments where I was like, is this supposed to be funny? It's not really that funny. And I think that was the biggest issue of the film, was that this felt like a very playing it safe Beavis and Butthead episode. Out of all the Beavis and Butthead things, except for the revival, of course, because that wasn't very good. It felt very like they were playing it safe, and there were a lot of moments, like the college classroom, where I was hoping for worse jokes, for more crude jokes, and more pushing the boundary of comedy, because that's what comedy is about. It's about pushing boundaries. Comedy isn't about playing it safe and making people feel good that, like, oh, I'm not going to make a joke about that because I'm not a bad person. No, like, comedy is about being as mean and crude and rude as possible. And the slight feelings of discomfort make the jokes funnier and funnier. And especially for the original show, it was a very controversial show. And I don't really feel like this movie would ever be considered controversial, because a lot of the jokes in this movie, people just fucking make them on YouTube videos. Like, I could make all those jokes right now. Like the thing about, they go around acting like they have white privilege, and then these police arrest them. And it's like, no, actually, white privilege is complete bullshit. and complete just a fabrication by loser SJWs. That is the truth. And so the joke is, of course, is that they get arrested. They don't have white privilege. It's not real. And the joke just feels so safe and so, like, okay, like they steal some cakes and then they kind of throw some cakes and then they steal some clothes or something. And it's like, really? Like, this is all that they're going to do when they learn that they have quote-unquote unlimited white privilege? Like, sorry, but there was this woman in particular in the mall when they were stealing stuff, and she had these big breasts, and I was just waiting for Beavis or Butthead to, like, squeeze her breast or something, or pretend like he's blind or something, and just be like, I have white privilege, like, but of course they can't do that because it's 2022. And so there were a lot of moments like that in the film where it felt like, oh, we can't do that. We can't joke about that. It's 2022. And so even though this was very welcome and there really wasn't anything political, no political agendas, it was just a good story with good characters, I do still feel like they could not do certain things. Same with Top Gun Maverick, where they basically paid homage to every single element in the original film except for the teacher-student relationship, which of course they can't do because it's 2022. And so it felt like the same type of thing for this movie where they couldn't make certain jokes. They didn't want to make jokes that would upset too many people, and I really felt like that let the movie down. Because it's Beavis and Butthead. Like, we want to see them push the limit. We want to see them be as crude as possible. And there were a couple of times in this film where they just resorted to, like, shit jokes. Like, where Beavis and Butthead get locked up in a fucking porta potty, and then they get driven around, and they're trying to search for an iPhone in the porta potty, and it's like, really? Like, it was funny, but, like, really? Like, this is Beavis and Butthead in 2022. Like, they're not going to do anything, like, really crazy, over-the-top, insane, edgy. They're just going to play with shit in a porta potty. And then there was another time in the film where, sometimes Beavis and Butthead are pretty retarded. In fact, a lot of the time, that's a part of their characters. And there was this one instance in the film where they start paying for everything with the iPhone. And they're like, oh my God, you can pay for things with a TV, quote unquote. And the funny thing is that all they do is order a hotel room and order shit tons of nachos and like a special jewel bowl, like a bowl with these green jewels in it. But the funny thing is that, like, why the fuck didn't they order prostitutes? Like, and so there was stuff like that where it's like, you literally could have made like a whole story in that part of the movie where they order prostitutes and then things go terribly wrong. But they didn't do that. And it's like, why not? Like, they say they can pay for anything. So why the fuck wouldn't they pay and get some prostitutes so that they can score? That's their whole conflict as characters. And I guess they're just so obsessed with scoring with that one woman, the astronaut. They're so obsessed with scoring with her that they completely forget that they could literally pay for prostitutes with their phones. So I thought that was pretty ridiculous that they didn't do that, or at least try to do that. Like, why didn't they try and be like, oh, why can't I can pay for everything with this TV. Why can't I pay for a prostitute? And then maybe they go to, like, a strip club and, like, try to scan a stripper's boob on their phone or something to, like, pay for them. Like, why they just don't go anywhere with that except for getting nachos. And then Beavis, I really love the whole thing where Beavis actually starts to have like a her relationship with the phone, and he starts talking to the Siri on the phone, and I really liked that. I felt like one of the best things about this movie was that Beavis and Butthead were really, really fleshed out as characters in the film. And I really liked that they were given a lot of a depth to them. They were given just a lot of like subtle depth through their actions and their dialogue, everything. And so I like that too. You know, this definitely felt like a more mature Beavis and Butthead in good ways and bad ways. And finally we get to the end where they're like trapped by the astronaut. One of the fun things about the movie is that she thinks that she killed them in 1998. And so the way that they're in 2022 is going through this black hole. And I like that too, you know, so that they can stay the same age, just like The Simpsons. Except for this, it makes sense because they time traveled through that black hole. They're in 2022 America. Texas. They never meet Hank Hill, and so I will mention that a little bit at the end because I think that was also a missed opportunity. So they're trapped by the astronaut woman, and I really liked her a lot. I thought that she was a great character, and she wants to kill them because she thought she already killed them, and she's really mad about what they made her go through. And then, of course, they go through this big rigmarole with chasing and shooting and blah, 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 blah. That was the part that I mentioned where it got really plotty and not really funny. And then finally she learns that they wanted to score with her. And it was really actually like a satisfying moment. Like she was ready to score with both of them, possibly. To quiet them and to make them not like talk about whatever illegal things she did. And it felt like, wow, like they're finally gonna close this conflict and they're gonna give us like a really satisfying ending. And I felt like, wow, like this is gonna be something really special and a really like a nostalgic and really like life-changing moment in terms of for their lives. And it felt like such a great ending. And then boom, throughout the movie they had one of the variations was the smart Beavis and Butthead, which they basically looked like those testicle heads from the very first Star Trek episode, back when Star Trek was good. And they were smart, and yet they never scored, and so that was pretty funny. And they helped them a lot in these situations, but sometimes they didn't. And one of the funnier parts was when they stressed them out about they have to go back through this black hole, and then it turns out, oh, we could have literally sent anything through the black hole, and it would have worked fine. And so, like, they didn't have to actually go through the black hole at all, and I thought that was a funny and good twist. And so they weren't really completely smart at all. They weren't all-knowing and all-seeing. But then the smart Beavis, he comes in and he says, he tells the astronaut that if she will come with him to his universe, and scores with him, that he'll show her all the galaxy and he'll give her infinite knowledge of everything ever. And it felt like, okay, like I get it, like because I guess they couldn't do that or else Beavis and Butthead would be over forever and they couldn't make any more. But it really felt like a shitty thing. Like, I really was happy that, like, she was a great character, and it felt like a great way for them to finally score. You know, they went through hell for this person. They went through complete and utter hell they almost got killed multiple times. Uh, they went through a lot. They went through more than that guy in Moonfall. If you remember when I talked about Moonfall and how Halle Berry should have let him score with her before he sacrificed himself to save the universe. I stand by that 100%. But it felt like such a completely understandable way for it to finally happen. And for that to not finally happen, but it happened with one of the versions of them in another universe. I guess they just want to make more. I guess that's what they want to do. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being too optimistic. I'm being too hopeful about having wanted to see them score with her, and I kind of wanted them to get in a relationship. Like, I don't know. Like, I guess I can't, like, I guess that'll never happen. Like, that's terrible. Like, in fact, at the end, you actually start to feel sorry for these guys. You start to feel like, they're becoming such good characters that I'm not just looking at them like they're just these joke gag characters anymore. I'm looking at them like, oh, that's sad. I really wanted them to do it this time. I wanted them to finally achieve their goal, and I wanted to see them grow forward. Of course, I know they're not going to fully grow forward, and that their flaws would continue to overcome them at certain points, and that would make for good comedy. Uh, So, anyways, and I will say too, it was a missed opportunity to see King of the Hill, to see Hank Hill or someone like him, uh, someone in that universe, I mean, because this movie felt a lot more like King of the Hill than Beavis and Butthead. King of the Hill was exactly like this in terms of how it had a lot of good story, but it didn't have a lot of that crude comedy. It still had a lot of great comedy, but for the most part, it was more story driven. And so I really wanted to see those characters again. It would have been nice to just see like them for like a cameo or something. But they did have this family that was kind of like a German version of King of the Hill family, and then they get killed. And so I don't know if that was like their purposeful cameo or something, but it was sad that we didn't get to see them because I really miss, and I know it sounds selfish, but I really miss King of the Hill. I love King of the Hill. I've seen the show so many times. It's such a fantastic, perfect show. Like, King of the Hill deserved 30 seasons over The Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park. Ugh. Like, those shows suck in comparison to King of the Hill. Even Beavis and Butthead I don't think is as good as King of the Hill. But anyways, I enjoyed this movie. I would watch it again for sure. I'm so thankful to have gotten this movie too. I really, really appreciate them coming back to make this movie because it was such a great thing to watch in 2022 where, every day we have to wake up, get more shitty shows with politics, more shitty movies with politics, and we just get this movie and Beavis and Butthead do the universe without any of that crap. A very, very good effort indeed. So please like this video, comment, tell me what you thought of the movie, because I know some people didn't like it, but a lot of people really loved it, and I think I pretty much liked it a lot too. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more Beavis and Butthead reviews. Goodbye everybody, see you soon.